Hello and welcome to Alive and Cooking. My menu for today includes a wide range of flavours, starting with a tasty fish terrine. I'll follow that with a delicate honey and mustard quail and finish with a robust fig and ginger Parkin. In the food clinic with resident GP Dr. Stephen Amiel, I'll be discussing the menopause and what can be done to help women through it. And the two food files are on lentils and sorbets. But first of all, I'll be making the fish terrine. For fish terrine, we need some fish. I've chosen some haddock in this terrine, but you could use cod or halibut or indeed Dover sole, but that would make it a little bit more expensive. Now I've poached this fish in some milk and then I've reserved some of my fish liquid to mix with my milk because I'm going to make a roux sauce to combine with this fish. But as you'll see, it's just very soft and it's cooked to the level that I want it. Now I'm going to make a roux sauce, as I say. So I've melted some butter in a pan and I'm going to add my flour. Now you could use wholemeal flour to increase the fibre content of this dish, but I think this is an occasion when I prefer to use white because I want to make this dish rich in calcium, which is good if you're going through the menopause or indeed for children. This is a very good dish to get them to eat fish and indeed to take in a lot of calcium. When I've just let the flour heat up slightly, I'm going to add some eggs with my fish stock. Just beating slightly. And I'm also going to add some fresh cream. Now, even though you can use yoghurt as a good substitute for cream if you don't want a lot of fat in your diet, you can't really use it in this recipe because it wouldn't make a good sauce. So stick to cream. And even if you're worried about your calorie intake or indeed your fat intake, you only need a small amount of this dish, so it should be perfect. I'm going to add just a little bit, having turned my heat off. Add a little bit at a time. If you add it all at once, you'll find that your sauce goes lumpy. Now, if you want to speed the sauce up, you can add it all together and then you can use a whisk. This helps make the sauce less lumpy. Now, this needs to go just slightly thicker. The eggs will thicken the sauce. Of course, the eggs add some protein. And once this sauce is thick, I'm going to add the fish. And I'm also going to add some anchovy essence, which enhances the flavour of the fish. 1 to 2 teaspoons. And also some fresh parsley and a squeeze of lemon juice. To yet again enhance the flavour of the fish. And because I want to make this a light fish terrine, I'm just going to add some beaten egg whites. As you can see, they're just fluffy. I'm just going to fold those in. And I've already buttered and breadcrumbed a little loaf tin. So I need to put the fish terrine mixture. You only need to lightly mix it into a bain-marie, which is just a baking tray that's had some water, put up to about 1/3 full, and I put it into an oven for about an hour to an hour and a half. And the bain-marie ensures that the fish mousse poaches very gently. And then once your fish mousse is fully cooked and it's set, you just need to let it cool. Now, this is an ideal dish if you don't want to eat red meat. So if you suffer from headaches and find that red meat stimulates or causes a headache, this is something exciting to do with fish. And once it's fully cooled, you can slice it, and it's perfect picnic food as well. You can see that it's fully set with a lovely texture and mixture of colours. So it's a very good dish if you suffer from migraine or the occasional headache. And there you have it, fish terrine.
Lentils contain huge amounts of fibre. Eating lentils helps keep your digestive tract healthy and flowing. Some people find that when they're eating lentils, they become a little bit windy, but if you persevere with a high fibre diet, your body should adapt. Lentils also stimulate the body to produce a substance which helps it fight against cancer and heart disease. As well as being a good source of fibre, lentils contain protein, which provides vegetarians and those who don't like eating meat with the nutrients needed to maintain strong muscles and a healthy immune system. The most important thing to remember when eating lentils is that they absorb a lot of water when cooking and also extract water from your body. It is therefore important to drink lots of water to help the fibre along the digestive tract. Otherwise, you might find you become constipated. Lentils, along with pulses such as beans, have been found in the last year to produce a substance which helps cushion hormonal swings. So if you're worried about entering the menopause, you might like to include some lentils into your diet, as it might make your time a little easier. Lentils make delicious roasts, soups and casseroles when mixed with spices, rich vegetable sauces and fresh herbs.
It's time for our food clinic again, when we talk about healthy eating and beneficial foods with Dr. Stephen Amiel. Today we're going to be investigating menopause and find out which foods can be helpful. Stephen, a lot of women are very, very worried about the menopause. Is it something physiologic they should be worried about, or what's your view?
I think there's an awful lot of dread surrounding it, and there's no doubt that for some women it can be a distressing experience. But for many women who are in good health generally, they can actually sail through it with very few symptoms and none of the possible long-term consequences that can follow on from the menopause.
Which are heart disease, osteoporosis,
exactly.
Anything else?
Well, those are the main ones, and those are the things that we look out for, particularly at people who are at risk in other ways, people who are very underweight or heavy smokers or who've got a strong family history of osteoporosis or heart disease.
But then there's this marvellous thing, HRT.
Yeah, well, it is marvellous for some people. As I say, there are some doctors that think it should be in the drinking water and others that won't give it to anyone, and I'm very much in the middle. And I do think that for some women, it's a terrific alternative, and if given properly and adequately monitored, it can certainly protect against both osteoporosis and heart disease, and of course help with the symptoms.
But then drugs aren't everything, because there are certain foods that we're finding, specifically now with the Mexican yam, which we know is the sweet potato in this country, because we've got it here, which, I mean, it looks rather peculiar, and you think, well, what on earth can you do with it?
Yeah.
I mean, you can use it in stir fries, in curries, but also you can get it as a cream, can't you, and as a gel?
You can. I think that's right. You can put it on as a cream. It's very tasty, though. I'd much prefer to eat it myself. Yes, I mean, that contains a natural progesterone, and there's some good evidence that it does help both with the symptoms of the menopause, particularly flushes and vaginal dryness, and also some evidence that it might help against osteoporosis. Not conclusive yet, so I would still be looking to HRT in some women, but for those that can't take it, and for some of those that don't feel happy taking it, I think this is a great way forward and good for everybody.
Well, you mentioned hot flushes, because I find frequently with patients, if they're really, really suffering, because it's very distressing, they can just sit in a room and get incredibly uncomfortable. Caffeine is the one that, I mean, it's interesting to look as to why it does this, but really if you come off caffeine, a lot of women find their symptoms, they virtually disappear.
Well, that's right. Some of the
flushes.
flushes and the headaches, certainly the irritability and the depression that some women associate with their menopause.
And then we've got pulses like chickpeas and we've got lentils. Now,
Yes.
I mean, these are examples of them, but it's generally the fibre, isn't it, within these foods that they can help cushion the drop in hormones within the menopause. And also they can stimulate the body to produce more of the hormones. So they're incredibly useful foods to use in the diet, whether you're looking at sort of lentil roast or things like hummus, that they're really, really good. And also your whole grains and lots of vegetables and lots of fruits. So that if a woman is having a very well-balanced, healthy diet, it's probably not going to be as much of a trauma as if she's sort of living on convenience foods and not really looking after herself. So that's really the message we want to get across. Thank you, Steve. For honey and mustard quail, you need to buy some quail. They're quite hard to get hold of if you just go to a supermarket, but if you have a friendly local butcher, he might be able to order some for you. But you could easily adapt this recipe for chicken, indeed baby chickens or just a whole chicken. But I think it's lovely if you can serve a whole quail, normally as a starter. Now I've mixed quail with some apple, and I've chosen Bramley apples because they're very tart, and you need to just peel the apple. And then I'm going to remove the core as well. It's really important that you do use a strong tart apple, because if you just used a sweet apple, you wouldn't get the depth of flavour within this dish. Now for non-red meat eaters, this is a very rich dish, and it's perfect for dinner parties. Because I find a lot of patients, if you say it's not good to eat red meat all of the time, they're lost as to what they can serve if they're wanting something a little bit special. So you just remove the core, and then we slice quite thick slices. Now, apples are rich in fibre, which is good for the digestive system. So you've got a nice balance of protein and fibre. Now you line an oven-proof dish with the slices of Bramley apple. And I've already done some beforehand. If you need to prepare apple in advance, you need to make sure that they're covered with lemon juice, otherwise they go very brown. Now to finish this dish off, I'm going to make a dressing with some honey and some mustard. I like to use French mustard in this dish, but you could equally use English, but you might not need just as much, because French mustard is a little milder than English. So I'm just mixing some honey with some mustard. A little bit of seasoning. And then the dressing's ready. So this is a very quick and easy recipe. Now I'm laying my quail on top of the apple, and I'm just going to drizzle the dressing on top of the quail using a little brush. Or if you haven't got a brush, you could easily do it with a spoon. And this serves two functions. It will keep the quail protected under the grill, and it'll also caramelise them, so you get a lovely sweet taste at the end when it's all cooked. Now in a preheated grill, you need to place your quail quite low down to begin with, and then halfway through the cooking time you move them up and also turn the quail around. Now I've prepared some earlier just to save some time, and you'll see that the honey and the mustard is caramelised on top of the quail, and also the Bramley apple rings have browned and cooked thoroughly. Now the advantage of serving just a small quail as opposed to a large amount of chicken is that you're not over-facing any of your guests, or indeed if you're caring for someone that has cancer, the last thing they want very often is a large meal to overface them. So that if you can just serve compact little units like individual tarts or indeed a quail rather than a whole slab of meat or a big portion of dessert. If you serve small portions, it's a lot better for them because they feel they've achieved something if they get through the whole dish, and then they can always have seconds. So that quail are perfect for this. I also think it's, as I said earlier, good as a starter, because I can imagine people with large appetites wouldn't be very happy just having a quail to eat in the evening. Now I think quail is best served with green leafy vegetables like broccoli or asparagus if you're lucky enough and you got it at the right time of the year, or indeed some spinach. And all of those green leafy vegetables are rich in magnesium, which is a mineral that helps the body release energy. So you're taking in the food and the energy, and if you've got magnesium there, then your body can use it. So that's a really good combination of protein, some fibre from the apple, and if you're serving it with some green leafy vegetables, also some magnesium. So there you have a dish fit for a queen, honey and mustard quail.
Sorbets are incredibly refreshing. If you're unable to tolerate milk or any milk products, they provide a refreshing alternative to ice cream, as they shouldn't contain any milk. You should be aware that some sorbets can be high in sugar. People make the mistake that they just think it's frozen fruit. To get the healthy balance between enjoyment and protecting your body against the sugar energy swing, it's best to serve sorbets with either some fresh or some poached fruit, as the fibre within the fruit helps the body absorb the sugar from the sorbet more slowly. Less commonly, you can find savoury sorbets. Most people just have these in restaurants. But sorbets such as tomato and avocado can provide an interesting interlude between courses.
Pudding time now, and today it's fig and ginger Parkin. Now this cake has a lot of secrets inside it because it's very high in iron, which you might think, well, there's no red meat, there's no green leafy vegetables. But figs are very rich in iron, and also black treacle. So if you're feeling very tired and you might think that you've got iron deficiency anemia, or indeed you're suffering from heavy periods and you want to put some iron back into your body, this is a perfect way to do it. Now the first thing to do is to sieve my wholemeal flour along with the ginger into a bowl. Let's just add some air. I love the smell of powdered ginger. Now if you wanted to add some extra calcium to this cake, you could in fact use white flour, because white flour contains calcium. We've been doing that since the Second World War, when they started adding calcium because dairy products were hard to get hold of. So perhaps when you're making this cake for children, this would be a good way of getting some additional calcium into their bodies. Now having sieved that, I'm going to add it to my butter and sugar mixture that I've melted some butter in a pan here. I'm adding some brown sugar, stirring it slightly. I'm going to add my black treacle. Now the best way of getting black treacle from a tin into a saucepan is to use a heated spoon. So I've just had this spoon in boiling water. And it comes off relatively easily. So you just mix those together. And then I'm going to pour this into the flour mixture. And then I'll add my figs. You could also add some dried apricots if you want a little bit of variety. Now I'm adding my egg, some bicarbonate of soda, which helps the cake rise, and also a little bit of milk to add a little bit of moisture. And you just roughly beat this mixture together. This is one of those mixtures which is good for eating even when it's not baked. I'm going to refrain from doing this because the final result is also very good. Now I've lined a cake tin, and I'm just putting this cake now into the oven around about 190 degrees, and I'm going to leave it there for about 25 minutes until the Parkin is baked. But to save some time, I've had one baked earlier, and it's been cooling on my cooling tray. And I'm just going to slice it to show you what the final cake looks like. Now, of course, figs are very good for constipation because they have a mild laxative effect on the body. This cake is not only high in iron, it's also good for the bowels. So you'll see the cake is deliciously moist. And in fact, this cake is even better when you leave it overnight or for a couple of days because it even becomes more gooey. So it's an extremely sustaining cake with a double boost of iron, fig and ginger Parkin. That's all we have time for today, but I'll be back next time with plenty more ways to construct a healthy, nutritious meal. So do join me then.